inviting our Prime Minister, Sarah Nafisa, to the floor. You may have the floor.
Will I have to open my camera?
Yes, you'll have to open your camera. But, you know, if you have problems in doing so, then I guess it's okay. Oh, and just a reminder, POIs can't be more than 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In this world where most people's voices are being shut and deleted from the mind of the government. Leaders' justice movement here are more effective and beneficial in contain of adaptability and ability to prevent the abuse of power. In the debate here, I'll be providing the definition, some clarification, the burden and the burden push for the opposition, our stance and stakeholders, and the most effective stakeholders that would be in this debate. The first one is the definition of this debate. Here that we said that, okay, basically first, what is leaderless justice movement? Okay, basically these are groups that are working to make things fairer in society, and they don't have one main leader, and instead decisions are made together by everyone involved. The government side here definition would be that leaderless movement are seen as better because they let everyone have a say and adapt quickly to change without being held by one person's ideas. So this they are working in together and provide more adaptability, fairness, and equalize in among the groups. Basically, next we're going to be providing our burdens is that the gov peer must approve how leaders movement are more effective at achieving justice in society and development community compared to one focusing leader. The burden pusher that we want the opposition here to prove how individual leadership would bring the gov to society closer and fairer and provide more flexibility and adaptability in decision making. The next one that we'll be saying is that stakeholders would be that some of them would be like the citizen and the gov. Here that we said this the most vulnerable stakeholders is that the citizen, because in the end, citizens here are the one who will be affected by the decision that were made by the gov. Here that we're saying that this citizen are the one who is going to be the most affected when the decision are made by the gov. So either the decision that were made by gov is wrong or right, all of them will be affected to the citizen itself. Next one, I will be providing some of the arguments for the opening government. First of all, the first argument that we are providing what participation and ownership. So basically, the explanation here is that the leaderless structure, right, encourage more people to get involved and take responsibility, in having a sense of shared community, of a collective actions. It's basically they have the ability to have a broader opinions by the others, and they can make the decision fairer and more concerned to the other. So basically they have a higher awareness to what actually happening instead to just a leadership itself. The second for the second one is that we said for the second argument here, we said that we provide a better adaptability in making a decision for the gov. Basically, Adaptability means that they can have to choose their answer without having um, the basically the second argument is that, okay, I'm sorry, that was the wrong one. Basically, the second argument here, it would be that we can prevent the abuse of power. Here that we said, okay, basically, here that we said, um, usually government make mistake because leaders can have or be pressured by citizen and society to make the decision. The gov or the opposition can have a different motive in doing such a decision because they can be influenced by the citizen because that they're scared of a voting system that were made by the citizen. Here that we said by having by we can prevent the abuse of power because they can they when leadership are made by groups, they can have a more understanding in each other problems, and with that they are not just focusing on one opinion but more to the all of them itself. So basically here that we said mm, um, by uh, by the when they are being pressured by the citizen and the society to make such decision, it's a highly risk that they would make a wrong decision when they are doing a decision for the country and the economy itself. Okay, the third argument would be flexibility and adaptability. So basically, without a centralized leadership, okay, leaderless movement can adapt more to new challenge and emerging issue, right? Making them more resilient in social and political environments. Basically, it's just easier for the gov to have flexibility and adaptability in a change of decision by having in this group, because then when they are just being held in just one year, it would be harder for them to have the flexibility and adaptability in choosing a right decision or wrong decision. So basically, the fourth argument would be that reduction and of power imbalance. Leaderless structure prevent the concentration of power in a single individual or a small group. Basically, there are potentially abuse of the power, and on our side that we ensure a more um, influence within the moments. And with that, the conclusion here. And in the conclusion, in the Leaders Justice Movement, we support that there's this movement support that leadership justice movement are more effective and beneficial compared to a leader one program due to their lacking of adaptability and ability to prevent the abuse of power. And that will be my speech.
All right, thank you, Prime Minister. I just want to remind everyone that, you guys should be aware of the timing and everything. I already shared my screen with you guys so that you guys can be aware of the time. I don't want to interrupt you guys mid-talk, so please be aware of the timing, okay? Now I invite Afik from MCKKA, the leader of opposition. You have the floor.
Okay. Am I audible and can you see my camera? Or is there a problem with the camera?
No, there's not a problem with the camera, and we can hear you well.
Alright. Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, first and foremost, I feel like there's one thing that government failed to prove us and one thing that government misunderstood. And that is the motion of the debate and the definition of the debate itself. Now, why exactly do we on side of opposition say this in the first place? Understand that first and foremost, the motion of the debate says that the House prefers leaderless social justice movements, not a leaderless government, not a leaderless country, but a social justice movement. So what we
Sorry, Leader of Opposition. I've been told that they cannot hear you very well.
Oh, yeah, I saw the message.
Yeah.
Is it clear now, or is it a network error on my behalf?
I'm not sure, but I think I can hear you clearly. I'm so sorry. Do you want to repeat yourself, or do you want to continue?
I think I'll repeat myself.
Okay.
Starting speech in 3, 2,
Wait,
1.
can everyone hear him clearly?
Sorry.
I want to make sure everyone hears him clearly so that you guys can, take your notes and stuff. Okay. Okay, sorry. You can start now.
My speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. And now, one thing that I believe, so obviously believes that side government failed to prove to us today, and not only did they not prove to us, but they misunderstood as well, is the definition of emotion. Now, first and foremost, why do we exactly say this? Understand that the emotion of this debate today is that the House prefers a leaderless social justice movement. Not a leaderless government, not a leaderless country, but a social justice movement. And throughout the entire government speech, I feel like it's safe to say that they've been trying to prove to us how this is good for the citizens and how it's good for the government in itself. However, they don't really prove to us how it's going to help a social justice movement in the first place. Now, however, let's still be charitable towards them and take a few of their arguments into the frame of this debate. Now, first and foremost, what exactly does the Prime Minister of side of government say today? They tell us that with this, we're able to actually help the citizens. We're able to, let's take citizens as the members of the social justice movements in itself. A leaderless social justice movement will actually benefit them in a way. However, real side opposition say that this is otherwise due to the fact that they don't have a leader in the first place, and no one to actually spearhead these movements, and no one to actually lead the cause to a better striving goal. Now, what exactly do they try to argue? They try to argue on participation and the adaptability of these social justice movements or government in the first place. Understand that sure, they might say that this participation is something that's helpful as it causes these people to feel more responsible and gives them better decision making. However, understand that if a leader or if a social justice movement does not have a leader in the first place, hence there will be a group of people that have different opinions, like opposing towards each other, being that it's going to create a bigger rift in these social justice movements, hence causing it to destroy itself inside in the first place. Now, before we go on, what exactly is the opposition's case on this side of on today's debate? First and foremost, we'll be giving you our own definition, we'll be giving you our own framing, our own stakeholders, and most importantly, our own arguments. Now, first and foremost, let's go through the main course of this debate, which is the definition. Obviously, the definition is the House prefers a leaderless social justice movement. However, obviously, on side of opposition, we are opposing that. We believe that all social justice movements must have a leader in the first place in order for them to strive and in order for them to actually gain recognition and hence being an actual social justice movement. Now, what we actually define as a leader, we don't define them as a person ruling the social justice movement with an iron fist. We don't tell you that it's a dictatorship. Rather, leaders are someone who are representing these social justice movements, meaning that in any case of a friendly or peaceful negotiation with a company, these guys will be going to negotiate with them in the first place. Meaning that side opposition can just say to us that these leaders are ruling with iron fist, where the voices of the members are being oppressed and silenced. Now, first and foremost, we also have to tell you that sure, conflict may happen internally inside of both sides of the debate, opposition-wise and government-wise, due to the fact that there has to be people that disagree with these leaders in the first place. However, understand that it's way worse outside of opposition, solely due to the fact that there are multiple more factions, due to the fact that there are no leaders to call these things in the first place, or there are no leaders to mitigate these harms in the first place. Now, going on, what exactly do we tell you today? We tell you today that on the side of opposition, we tell you that our burden of proof is to prove to you why leaders are important for the social movement and how it benefits us in the first place. Why exactly do we say that? We tell you that leaders are the main factors of the social justice movement going forward in the first place, due to the fact that their purpose is exactly as told. They're supposed to lead the group. They're supposed to make sure that no errors happen, and they're most importantly held accountable if any bad reputation gets hit towards them. That will be further on expanded during my argument. Not exactly that. We believe that instead of the citizens, the stakeholder for this debate is different. That mainly being the justice movement and how exactly side opening opposition proves you that we uphold the main stakeholder by maintaining its reputation and further solidifying it. Now, what exactly is the arguments on side of government or side of opposition in today's debate? First and foremost, we tell you that there are many disadvantages of having a group without a leader. First and foremost, we tell you that there's a lack of coordination and a lack of accountability. Now, first and foremost, for the first argument, which is the lack of coordination. The lack of a leader means that it's harder for you to control your social movement in the first place. How do we see this? Why do we see this exactly? Understand that these leaders are the ones that are actually guiding you where you're going to help hold protests, where you're going to do some social campaigns, how you're going to do something. Without a leader, people will try to take a step in and try to claim themselves as someone that you have to follow. Meaning that these people with different ideologies will try to stray different groups of path away. For example, there might be like two sides in one like social justice movement. One that goes towards peaceful negotiations and one that goes towards violent protests. So take example per se that these two groups were to go against each other, they'll do like their own job and eventually it doesn't exactly solidify or even maintain social justice movement's reputation. Rather, it sets it back from even being a thing in the first place. Hence, it's not only destroying the reputation of the social justice movement. For example, a certain feminist movement tries to do is held accountable for these actions, and per se that their reputation is bad. It will also harm the definition and the name of feminists themselves. Now, going on to my second argument, why exactly does it? And this exactly directly links to the accountability or my second argument. Why exactly does it link to accountability? Understand that due to the fact that it's difficult to control, it becomes more volatile, this causes more accountability to happen, more bad reputation. And without a leader, no one is actually able to be held accountable in the first place due to these actions. Meaning that since there's no one to be held accountable, the entire party gets hit due to the sole fact of like one singular error. If there were a leader, then that leader will be held accountable. They themselves will admit that it's their mistake for bringing their social justice movement towards that error in the first place. Now, without someone being held accountable, the entire movement gets held accountable, hence setting back the movement and the name of the social justice movement in itself. So what do we prove to you today on side of opposition? We prove to you today that one, it's important for you to have a leader in the social justice movement due to the sole fact that you cannot thrive without one. I will tell you that there are many disadvantages compared to the quote-unquote benefits of having a leaderless social justice movement in the first place. So if you believe in a side if you believe in a social justice movement that is able to actually spearhead towards the betterment of their movement, then do side of opposition. With that, I'm proud to.
All right, thank you, Leader of Opposition. Now, now we move on with Deputy Prime Minister from SSPJ. Fatini Erdina, you have the floor. SSPJ, are you present? Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm going to open my camera.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you. All right. Whenever you're ready.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. In this debate, Op didn't really answer the arguments given by Gov, and I, as a deputy prime minister, will be elaborating on what my prime minister has just said just now. So one of the arguments that my prime minister had given was it could prevent the abuse of power. What do we mean by that? These leaders have power to control what the decisions for the citizens, and this can affect the citizens as well, because if like what my prime minister has said, if those decisions won't benefit the country itself, the citizens will be most affected by it. like basically, what we mean when my prime minister had said what leaderless justice movements are. Leaderless justice movements are basically a big team where everyone can have has a say. When everyone can have a say, it can make it fair and flexible. It can solve problems more efficiently. Um, when we talk about having a say, I'll give an example. Example like China. China, most of the Chinese society, voices are unheard by the leaders themselves, and the leaders are the ones are making decisions without the citizens' approval or the citizens' acceptance. So without these leaders, these voices can be heard, and we can make better decisions for the country itself. Now, now we're going to be going on for the second argument, which I will be elaborating, which is can prevent mistakes in decision making. What we mean by preventing mistakes in decision making is that when these leaders when these leaders make the decisions without the without the citizens' approval or the citizens' acceptance, these leaders can um, these leaders these citizens can the leaders when they make the decisions these leaders when they make the decision they can basically affect the country itself because maybe no thank you when these leaders make a decision this decision may be good or can be bad and when the decision they make won't benefit or will bring harm to the citizens and the country itself it can affect the citizens in general because when we're talking about these decisions the decisions that they're making will affect what the country's economy the country's relations and etc and the leaders social justice movements um the sick basically the leaders here have without leaders we can have a better without leaders and without leaders we can have better decision makings by all the people that are involved in the movements because when we have a leader these leaders um some leaders they don't listen or they don't listen to the people that are involved in the movements and without these leaders these citizens or the people involved in the movements can voice out what their opinions and what they think that is that voice out their opinions to see what is what the just how to bring justice to these problems um basically um Okay, I will be proving to you why in this debate, OG wins this debate. So why OG wins this debate is because we want the citizens to be the ones in making the decisions, and we also want the citizens to be. We want the citizens to be able to voice out their opinions so that it can bring better it can bring something better to the country and the social justice movement itself. Without leaders, these citizens can be able without leaders, these citizens are able to voice out what they think is wrong and what they want to solve in this debate. And with that, I end my speech.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Now I invite Luth, Deputy Leader of Opposition. You have the floor.
Hello, can you see me? Can you
Mhm.
hear?
Recording in progress.
Can see you.
Okay. My speech starts in 3, 2, 1. Government side here today has had multiple mistakes. They've done many things that have ignored many arguments, many definitions, and many things that my first speaker has already pointed out. But that's okay. I'll go briefly through what they have missed, and I'll give a couple of rebuttals to reinstate what they said. First of all, this is a debate about social justice movements, not about countries. Giving examples about China, giving examples about countries and situations like that doesn't work because it's a completely different situation. Because when you voice out a certain idea to the Prime Minister will control the entirety of the country. However, if you voice out an idea to a leader, the leader will take those ideas and they will go with it, and whoever who doesn't agree with him can just leave. However, if you are on a country, they can punish the people who do not disagree, who disagrees with the Prime Minister. With that, there's an example of why a lot of examples that they're giving here today, a lot of framing they're giving today, simply just doesn't work. Now, my first argument is abuse of power. They said that on their side, there is simply no, in their side, there's simply no abuse of power, and in our side, there is, because the leader will simply control. However, in a social justice movement, a leader does not control everything with an iron fist. What all they do is simply be a representative for that certain movement. For example, they become a representative for the media, right? Okay. Secondly, they say that voices cannot be heard. However, I have an argument about that where, in fact, the voices, when you do not have a leader, the voices that they give simply will cause a risk of internal conflict where they will argue with each other. And the final rebuttal is they say that without leaders, you guys will simply have a better decision-making situation for that social justice movement, which is simply ridiculous because, first of all, they can voice out the decisions to who? None of the speakers gave a definition of who these ideas are being voiced out to, right? Because on our side, we are saying that all these ideas will be either washed away because they will do everything on their own and will cause internal conflicts anyway. And with that, I will go on to my arguments. Now, first things first, the first argument I have here today is basically the difficulty in decision making, which I know is a direct clash of their argument. First of all, what is the purpose of a leader? In today's world, in today's generation, everyone wants a leader. Companies who want to take in them for jobs want a leader. Schools want a leader. Why? Because a leader can simply take responsibility. They can control a group of people in a very well way. And the examples given by the other side is simply depicting a dictator from China or Russia. And basically, without a leader, you will have basic problems such as not being able to do basic tasks in the social justice movements, like having, I don't know, a protest, like having these social media protests and whatnot. Second is the risk of internal conflict, right? Because I imagine a group of people who have the same idea, yes, but they might have different variants of those ideas, which will cause them to argue against each other, right? And this is a bad thing. Imagine a world where, for example, you want to sell a certain product, but a lot of people don't want these ingredients or you don't want these ingredients. If you have a leader, the similar strands of these ideas will be grouped together and follow through. While the people who have vastly different ideas will simply leave and make their own protest because that is simply too far from the truth, from what they are trying to protest in the first place. And secondly, this might cause the breakdown of the entire movement itself. Because if too many people disagree and not a single person to bring them together and be responsible for the actions of their people, then simply the protesters or the protest or the social justice movement simply breaks down because they cannot perform a simple task and they cannot afford to keep the entire movement afloat. And my next argument is simply media representation. Now, social justice movements, the reason why this movement exists is because these ideas are simply boring or basically unpopular among the people, right? If that's the case, then media representation is extremely important, whether in social media or in interviews or in television. This media representation basically pulls these movements from obscurity all the way to important to status where they are considered important in these communities, right? But if there is not a single person that's going to be a representative for the media, who is going to first of all take the responsibility of it, and who is going to give the perfect representation for these people, right? And let's just say someone out of all these people who have different ideas from each other suddenly give answers in interview, for example, from like television, TV and whatnot, then What if the other people around them disagree with it? Or what if this person isn't the perfect person that has been chosen from the hundreds that are currently hundreds or thousands that are currently performing in this movement? Immediately, the entire movement is considered bad, or maybe the entire movement has been seen as flawed, even though the person who's being represented is not the perfect person or not the ideal person for the scenario. In this case, having a leader is simply better because this leader has been chosen out of all the people who simply have the best leadership skills and whatnot, communication skills, and will provide the best example for these communities and these movements. And even if these leaders make mistakes, at least he will be completely responsible and he will clarify that every mistake that he's made does not represent the entirety of the movement, regardless of what it is. And finally, I will go on to the clashes of this debate and why we win this debate entirely. Now, first of all, the side government has given a lot of one-liners. They've not given examples. They've not given framing. And with that, I have to go and take all these one-liners and have to try to give our clashes, and we have to show you why we win anyways. Now, first of all, they say that in their side, the people will have responsibility, which I do not understand in what world that even works, because I have already told you that in these scenarios, a lot of these people do not have to be accountable for their actions, right? The leader will be held accountable, but with no leader, who is going to be held accountable? If one person decides to not do their job, then he can simply just say, "Oh, this person did it, this person did it." No leader is going to, no leader is there to overview this entire situation. And secondly, there's a difficulty, and they say that there's adaptability, which makes decisions easier. Well, I've told you time and time again that there are difficulties in decision making because there's no leader to uphold or spearhead these ideas. And finally, they say that they can prevent mistakes in the movement. Well, like I told you, there will be a lack of coordination. And with that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. That's all from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. So that's all from the opening teams. Now we go with the closing teams. So for the closing government, let's see. Okay, closing government, member for government from Kusess G, Nara, you have the floor.
Hello. Can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. First, I'd like to support the first speaker of the government. She said that the citizen will be affected by the decision. Yes, the citizen will very much be affected because um, because hold on, wait. First, I'll give the definition of social justice. Social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Okay, let me go back to the citizen will be affected by the decision. The citizen will be affected by the decision because they also live example here in Malaysia, like we're all Malaysians, right? Like if the leader makes a decision, we'll all be affected by the economy, our rights and opportunities to develop our country. Next, it says that prevent abuse of power. Without leaders, we can prevent abuse of power because like examples like what if the leaders they make the decisions for the country for their own good, that will also affect us. Like um as a Malaysian, I think that we all should voice our opinions, and it is also important because if there's a leader, the social justice movement will only depend on the leader because they're the ones making the decisions. We should all have a voice to say what is good for Malaysia. because
POI.
ourselves. Yes.
So don't you agree that if there is no appointed leader, that everyone would have their own opinions and everyone would want to do their own thing?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please?
Okay, so don't you agree that if everyone has their own opinions and there's no appointed leader to decide what they're going to do, then everyone would want to do their own thing in their own way?
Um, Even if everyone has their own way, I think they can discuss with each other and make one decision for the country. Okay. Um, Next, um, I would want to rebut the first speaker of opening opposition. They said that um, the country must have leaders to strive. So, don't you think that us Malaysia? So, are you trying to say that us citizens need a leader to strive? Like, don't you think we can strive by ourselves? Um, because I believe that we also have the power to make the decision without a leader to come together and make one decision that is good for the country, for everyone, and everyone can live comfortably without um without uh without having without having to stress. Hmm. Um Next, the opposition said something about leaders are the representative of the country. Um I'd like to rebut on that because don't you think that us citizens are also like representative are like a representative of the country? Because how people look on our country depends on the citizens. What we do, like what happens in our country, I believe that we are also the representative. So I don't think we really need a leader to represent the country because us ourselves are representative. Like what if like there's a something like we are helping other countries, like we are the representative. Um
POI.
yes.
So as to say that you claim that everyone can become a representative, does that mean that you also agree that sorry, does that mean that you're trying to say that anyone can just make their own decision and like hence any decision can be made even though there's like separate opinions, that you're going to somehow create a definite one singular opinion?
Yes, I do believe that if everyone has different opinions, maybe the we can take the maybe we can take the majority, or we can like discuss together to make sure which one is better for the country. Yes. Um, um, okay. I'd like to give my argument on why we don't need leaders. First, about our innovation and creativity. With um, if without leaders, we can encourage individuals to think outside the box and think of new ideas for the country without on the consent of leaderships, because we can make the decisions for the country by ourselves with everyone agreeing with the decisions. Next, increased autonomy. Individuals may feel more empowered to make their own decisions and take initiative, leading to greater personal responsibility. With greater responsibility, we can strive for the country. Um, Next, what if the leaders like lose their way because of the greed? Like if they because most leaders like will focus on external gratification and not on inner satisfaction. Like they often reject the honest opinion who speaks truthfully to to power. they often leaders also often surround themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear. So I don't think that's a very good leadership. I think I'll end my speech here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, member of government. Now we move on with closing opposition from Mrsm Beseri. Inviting the member for opposition, Was, you have the floor. Hi,
Hello, am I audible?
you are.
Okay,
Mm.
so starting my debate in 3, 2, 1. So, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all the members of the hall. I, as your member of opposition, will be telling you why we, as a team of opposition, do not prefer leaderless social justice movements. So what I would be doing is to rebut what the Deputy Prime Minister said and what the Prime Minister said, and then provide an extension, which is a new argument, and further develop what my opposition team underdeveloped, and explain how our position fits into this debate. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it. So I will be starting with my rebuttals, which is the Prime Minister stated that with leaderless social justice movements, we will get to prevent the abuse of powers. So what do you mean by that? We can take an example of our modern world. Yes, there are some leaders who abuse their powers, such as what you said, China, right? So, in other words, they are like the majority of the leaders are doing good for their own country so that their country could thrive. So, I don't see why this point is really relevant. And second point is, my second rebuttal is the Prime Minister stated that scratch that. The Deputy Prime Minister stated that without the leader to make the social justice movements, they would have a better decision making. How can you be so sure of that? Because in modern days, people would want to do their own things on their own, do what their mind tells them what to do. So they would need a leader to make the decision, like an autonomous decision, and the leaders are there to compile the opinions and make an autonomous decision so that the community would be happy with what the decision is made. So I will be moving on to
Please.
yes, pardon.
Are you saying that by that by uh eh, no, sorry, no.
Oh, okay. I will be moving on. My next rebuttal is that the member of government said that we don't need leader to represent a country. The modern world, which is right now, every single country has their own leaders. So what do you even mean by that? You're just basically running out of the topic of this debate. And lastly, you are not really confident with your points, member of government. May I state? Because you said that maybe we can take the majority of the decision made by the leaderless social justice movements. So you're not really sure of your own points. So I will be moving on with my extensions, which I will be giving you more arguments if we have a leader to lead a social justice movement, with this way we would develop a more structured advocacy. And to make you further understand it, I'm going to give you an analogy of let's say a queen bee. So what the queen bee is like a leader of the hive. And so with if you're going to say that the leader is corrupted or the leader is like abusive with their own power, right? So in the analogy, if the queen bee is like provocating of what the worker bees are doing, so they would replace the queen bee with another queen bee, and instead throw the corrupted queen bee out of the hive and take a new one. So that's how you solve the problem. You can always make a new leader to like prevent problems. And moving on, with the structured advocacy, therefore there would be a more effective movement. Therefore, a more effective movement is created for them, and also it would develop discipline within the community because they would follow what the leaders tells them to do. And usually, the leaders don't want negativity inside their the leaders don't want negativity
Why, please?
inside their. No, thank you. The leaders won't want negativity inside within the community, so they would like tell them something good to do, and overall just develop discipline within the community. Okay, so if we were to do leaderless social justice movements, then the group of people of who they are doing it will do it their own way. So like this will cause like negative effects towards these three stakeholders, which is first the government. When the government is facing this problem, they would have to like repair the damages if the mob of people of the social justice movements cause. And also they have to deploy a riot team to stop the movements if they go overboard, which could deplete the ammunitions and the firepower of the country, and later on make the country vulnerable towards it. So towards the citizens, they would have to deal with the hassle that are dealt with the uncontrolled social justice movements. And overall, what the purpose of the social justice movements did towards the community, they would ruin their image. So with what my point stated, I believe that the opposition team will have the upper hand in this debate. And overall, I have never been so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you for a member for the opposition. Again, I want to remind you guys, please, time yourself. Okay. Are you? Okay. Now back to closing government. I invite second speaker, Ainul Mardia. You have the floor.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1.
Wait. Aina, can you open your camera, please, or is it? Oh, okay. It's okay. All right. Thank you.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. First, I would like to rebut some things. The opening opposition said something about leaders are going to be held accountable. So if the followers are the ones that make mistakes, if the leader is supposed to be the one that is affected by those mistakes? Because why should the leader be affected when it's the followers that do it? For example, the the followers like leads to violence, goes to violence because they don't like a person. Suddenly the leader the leader is held accountable for for the thing that the follower did. Okay, and uh, you said that the opening opposition also said the leader is chose leader is chose because they are the best of the out of the best. But what if they're chose by bias? Like, what if they choose the leader because, oh, the leader is nice, the leader is like this, but actually the leader is not. When they step up, they they are they are not what they seem like. And uh I would like to rebut what the closing opposition said. The opposition said that we can just change the leader anytime. But what if the leader has been there for long? Like what if they have many connections and like some suddenly everyone like some people want to change them. The leader can just uh ignore that. The leader can just use their connections to like uh vanish basically. Uh this also relates to something that the opening opposition said. Like they say like prime ministers punish and leaders just leave them be. But at the same time, this thing this thing also is also implemented with leaders because leaders can also punish. Sure, because they lead those people. Leaders and prime ministers are somewhat the same. Just that prime ministers take care of a larger, bigger group and like they have more responsibility. But leaders also are also the same because they represent something. They have to take over it. So if the leader is like opposed, the leader won't just be like, won't just be like, oh yeah, I leave them be. When what if the opposite or the thing that oppose them, the person that oppose them rise. So is are they just going to leave it be? They're the leader. They're everyone is supposed to follow them. But there are some people that don't, even though they think the same. Uh there see the closing oppositions that also said something about leaders don't want negativity. So the leader can just tell them what to do and they will do it. Isn't that just over controlling them? Like the leader is controlling them. Like it's not they have their own mindset. But you the leader is taking over it because like the side of government has said citizens will get to will get their opinions heard. Their opinions heard. And if you say this like the leader doesn't want negativity and tell them what to do, doesn't that just that is just not true. That is just not true. Uh, uh, I would like to next. I would like to support my uh closing first speaker of closing government. She said she said something about uh leaders 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 not the leaders also hear about the things they will they will do. There are also biased leaders. There are leaders that are more friendly with those followers and like not that friendly with these followers. For example, okay, so uh followers A wants to do something, but followers B want to do something else. Even if followers A are the minority, if the leader is likes them more, the leader would sometimes be biased and follow what the followers A wants, even if the majority are followers B. Mm, There are also
UI before 6.
yes.
Yeah. All right. After generations of having leaders and it working out, and as opposed to not having a leader, why is it suddenly that your side here today proposes that having no leader suddenly grants you more responsibility or more adaptability as opposed to having leaders?
So I'm going to ask you this. Is it really working out? Have you seen the news? The biased leaders, the leaders that are not even hearing what the citizens want. They just think about themselves, you know. So I hope that answers your question. Uh okay. So are uh when when people when something follows and it's when people just them in okay. When leaders there is I would also like to say that uh an im- an impact that this is supposed I would like to give an impact. Everyone will have a voice to make sure that the country is developed. Because without everyone's voices, everyone's opinion, if we just hear one of their opinion, and like how is that going to work? Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a problem. Not just one person. One person's problem is going to solve everyone's. That is all I'm going to say today. Thank you.
Might I remind you guys again, mind your timing, since I'm not gonna write anything you guys say after the 7-minute mark. So now we move on with the closing opposition whip. Wait, where are you guys? Oh yeah, Raphael, you have the floor.
Hello. I just want to ask first. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Is it true? No.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Everyone else?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1.
Oh my god.
Okay, hello.
Wait. All right.
Okay. So I am okay. I will be starting my speech. I as the government opposition will be now. I will just basically go through every point that was made, every main point that was made, and I will be answering any rebuttals or things made by the government, so that I can prove that us, the opposition, especially opposition closing, are the actual winners of this debate. Okay, so first of all, the government went really off topic this whole debate because we're not talking about a nation's politics. This debate is about advocacy. So it's definitely just a whole wrong way that you're going, and basically makes a lot of the points that you're making in this debate completely irrelevant. Okay, the thing that I want to add before I move on to the points is that it is in human nature to want to do something their own way. So if we just don't have an appointed leader and everybody has their own opinions, then there won't really be anyone to weigh out the decisions that or the opinions that are being made by everyone and actually take one action that we all agree on. So if we do have leaders, then we will have someone to do that. We will have someone who, with their team, will be able to weigh out what exactly we're going to do, and we can come up to an autonomous decision to do things that are more to do things a more structured way, and in the end, we will actually have progress. Because if everyone in the movement would just want to do the things their own way, then we won't really actually get anywhere with our movement. Okay, so another thing I have to say is, okay, so as the opposition, as the government, as the opposition, I will now be answering a few of the things that the government has said. Okay, so one main point that the government was definitely pushing during this whole debate was that the leaders that are appointed would actually be able to listen to people. But that's exactly why we want leaders. We want leaders so that we have people that actually take in all of the opinions of everybody and, like I said before, come up with a decision, one single autonomous decision with their
POI, please.
no, thank you. So that we can actually make up activities that we actually all want to do, that we all will agree on, so that there's no internal conflict, so that we can actually make progress. Because that's something we want. The whole point of doing these movements is to do progress, is to help people. No, there's no progress, then we're just wasting our time. Okay, so another thing that
POI, please.
okay, no, thank you. Another thing is that the government kept saying, well, not kept saying, the government said that not the government, okay, said that, well, they tried to rebut my opposition member a lot of times, but I just don't think the points they were making were completely true. One thing that they said is that if they pick the wrong leader, then what will happen? Well, that's a pretty isolated case, because people aren't stupid. They'll be able to weigh out what we actually want, how we want the leader to be, so that we can pick a leader that everybody wants and everybody agree on, and one that is intelligent enough to make the
POI,
right decision.
please.
Another thing, no thank you, is that if my member of opposition has stated that if we did end up picking a leader who had gone corrupted, then we would be able to change that. Because, well, that's the whole reason we want. I mean, we're all in a democracy, all right? So everybody has their say. The leader isn't just the person who makes all the decisions. I've just been trying to say that the whole time. The leader, they take in the opinions of all the people, and they come up to one thing that they want to do, one thing that everybody agrees on. So if they instead don't do that, then we'll be able to change leaders to pick one that's much better. And one last thing that I want to say, one last thing I want to answer for the government before I move on to the opposition's points, is that when the government whip said that by controlling the negativity in the movement, that the leader will actually be controlling the people in the movement. That's really just not the case. We just want to maintain the good image of the movement so that we can actually make progress. Okay, that's probably all that I need to answer for the government. Now I'll be moving on to saying why the opposition should win this debate. Well, first of all, we say that you running off topic is definitely going to make the chances of you winning very bad. Also, we say that the leaders will help represent the people of the movement and will be held accountable if anything wrong happens in the movement. Okay, another thing that we say that the leader will be able to take control and we're able to strategize what we actually want to do, so that we actually make progress, so that we actually move towards our goal and not towards our own paths. And another thing is, we say that when we have leaders, then we will be able to make a decision that we all agree on, so that we don't actually
POI,
have-
please.
Okay, please.
So you're saying that leaders are supposed to think of everything after getting the opinions. Leaders are human too. They can make mistakes, and they can even make non decisions. That's all.
Okay, so that's why I said that the leaders will have teams which they will go into meetings too, so that they can all decide and weigh the actual opinions being given, so that they can come up with something which everybody agrees on and wouldn't cause any conflict. So before I end my speech, I would just like to reinstate why we should win this debate. Because the closing opposition, we have provided many points on why we need a leader for
social movements. And basically, we had given the most, we had basically been given the most points and the most logical points, and that's why we should win this debate. I have never been so proud to oppose. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, closing opposition. So now I'm just gonna fill in the ballots, and right after I'm done, I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna give you guys my feedback, okay? So in the meantime, you guys chill, just relax a bit. Okay, thanks. All right, guys, I'm done. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't think I need to open my camera for this one, so I'm just gonna go straight to feedback again. I want to apologize first if it might offend anyone. I'll try my best to be nice, okay? Unless you guys want me to be harsh, because I can be harsh if you guys want me to.
We're okay with that.
Oh, you know what?
We're okay with that.
Nah. Okay. So let's start with opening government first. Prime Minister. Okay. That's SSPJ, right?
Yes.
All right. So, you clearly outlined the structure of the debate, and you introduced your key arguments like participation and preventing abuse of power, and that's nice and all, but you can kind of improve in your arguments. I guess you could like put more depth to it. And I wouldn't really mind about you running out of topic from demotion, but because your opponents pointed that out, which is why. But so next time, really understand the motion you're given. You're allowed to ask questions, which is why I asked earlier if you have any questions, so that maybe I can help out giving more definition to the motion. Okay. All right. Deputy Prime Minister. Um, Deputy Prime Minister. Oh yeah. For me, you did great. You pointed out some things the PM did, like he did not answer your. Oh no. Oh yeah, you pointed out what leader of opposition did, which is he did not answer the Prime Minister's question. Unfortunately, Deputy Prime Minister, it just seems to me that you're repeating exactly what your Prime Minister says. And, I think it's crucial that you come up with new points. Because you're Deputy Prime Minister. If you don't want to give new points, you could have been whipped, but you're not. But you did great, averagely great. Moving on. Opening opposition. So leader of opposition. Okay, well, you strongly challenge the government's definition, and you also emphasize the importance of leadership in social justice movements. So everything good so far? There's not much for me to critique about. Yeah, leader of opposition, you did great. Deputy leader of opposition. You also did good, solid continuation of opposition's case with strong points. Yep. Everything's looking good. And also points out why opening opposition should win. Oh, I mean, all the deputies, they described why they should win, but for opening opposition, it's just more solid, So opening opposition, you guys did great. Really not much for me to critique about. Closing government. So we'll start with member of government. You attempted to reinforce arguments about preventing abuse of power, but what you could improve is that maybe add more ideas, because this, sorry, I have a sore throat. So the speech, it was repetitive. And like I said earlier, it kind of lacked new ideas. So the speaker should really focus on introducing clear extensions and avoid circling back to earlier points. Okay, now government whip. You raise questions about leadership bias and accountability. Points from your member of government, which is nice. But again, your speech kind of lacks clarity and focus. Because, as the whip, you need to tie together both argument teams' arguments and provide a strong closing summary, which is what's missing here. But I believe that you could improve this and do better for the next rounds. Okay? Now, closing opposition, member of opposition. So you presented, creative arguments. Love the analogy, sucker for analogies. But maybe avoid filler content and stay focused on the core arguments. But you did great. Member of opposition, you did great. Opposition whip. You gave a strong summary of the opposition's case. You're highlighting internal conflict and a need for leadership. And yeah, I guess that's all I could say. That's all I could say. Any questions?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, great. Oh wait. Oh, there's an extra note I did here. Closing government. I noticed you had more points to say after the 7-minute mark, but they sound like really good points, but I can't really write it down. I can't really take in those points because it's after the 7-minute mark. Okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry I was harsh earlier, but some of you guys asked for it, so I hope you guys can take my criticism positively and improve for the next round, okay? All right. Thanks, y'all. I guess that's it for me. No questions? Really? No questions?
Yes.
Hey.
Wait.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the results?
The results. Oh, you guys want to know the results?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll tell you guys the results. So for this round, drum rolls, please. Sorry. Okay. You guys ready? So for the how should I do it? Like first to last or last to first?
Last to first. Last to first.
That's the verse.
Oh, all right. Okay. So closing government. Unfortunately, you guys got last because you're pretty repetitive and you lack clarity with little contributions in terms of new content. But I know you guys can do better next round, okay? So third place, opening government. See, opening government, they had potential, but they lacked depth and engagement with opposition's arguments. Second place, closing opposition. Because you guys give well-structured, clear rebuttals and solid points. Honestly, it was pretty hard for me to decide between opening opposition and closing opposition because you guys did great. But unfortunately, I'm gonna give the first place to opening opposition. Any questions?
I don't think we have any.
Yeah, no objections or anything, right? I mean, you guys can object to it, but it's not going to change the marks or whatsoever. Okay, so that's all from me. Good luck for the next round, people.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the debate.